Royal Guard SMASHES Van Window, after Charlotte mouths, help me from inside. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, falling on the polished floors and intricate carpets, making the golden accents of the walls shine. The usual hush of the corridors was occasionally broken by the soft footsteps of palace staff, moving quickly and silently to carry out their duties. Among them, the guards stood firm, their expressions serious, watching over the royal family with the quiet vigilance that had been their tradition for decades. Princess Charlotte, a young girl known for her cheerful nature and curious spirit, was walking through the hallways, accompanied by a nanny. She had just returned from a short outing in the palace gardens, her face bright but with a hint of confusion. Something had happened, something small but noticeable, and it had left her unsettled. The nanny, sensing the change in the child's mood, stayed close, gently guiding her toward the sitting room where she could rest and relax. Nearby, a palace guard had noticed something unusual. Guards were trained to observe and report anything that seemed out of place, but rarely did they see interactions that seemed to stir even a small amount of worry. Today, however, something caught his attention. As he had quietly passed a corridor, he saw the Duchess of Cornwall, Camilla, interacting with Charlotte. At first glance, it seemed ordinary, but there was something in the exchange that made the guard pause. Charlotte's normally bright expression had dimmed, and there was a small frown that didn't belong on her young face. Camilla, while polite, appeared more stern than usual, speaking firmly in a tone that was slightly sharper than expected. The guard, understanding the importance of careful observation, decided to report what he had seen. He knew it was not his place to speculate or assume, only to convey the facts. Later that afternoon, he approached the senior palace staff with a detailed description. He described the positions of the individuals, their actions, and Charlotte's visible reactions. He noted that Charlotte had seemed hesitant, almost as if she didn't understand something, and that she had looked to the nanny for reassurance. While there was no obvious harm done, the change in Charlotte's mood was clear and concerning. Word of the report moved quickly, as it often did in the palace. Information traveled fast among staff, and within hours it reached Princess Anne. Known throughout the royal family for her protective instincts, Anne had always been particularly attentive to the well-being of her nieces and nephews. Charlotte, being young and impressionable, was someone she cared deeply about. Anne had a reputation for being forthright and decisive, someone who did not let concerns linger without seeking answers. Upon receiving the report, Anne's expression became serious. She could not ignore the possibility that something had unsettled Charlotte, even if it seemed minor to others. In her experience, small incidents could sometimes grow into larger misunderstandings if not addressed quickly. She immediately requested more information, asking her staff to gather every detail available. Every report, every observation, and every explanation would be important to understand the full picture. The atmosphere in Buckingham Palace subtly shifted as staff moved to respond to Anne's concern. There was a sense of quiet urgency, not panic, but a recognition that this situation required attention. Staff members whispered to each other as they verified what had happened, ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Anne's instructions were clear. Accuracy and discretion were equally important. She did not want rumors to spread or anyone to feel accused without understanding the facts. Meanwhile, Charlotte remained in the sitting room, her small hands fidgeting with the edge of a cushion. She had been a little confused by the earlier interaction, unsure why she had felt upset. The nanny stayed close, offering quiet comfort and gentle words. "It's okay, Charlotte," she said softly. "Everything is fine now." But even as she spoke, Charlotte's eyes wandered toward the doorway, perhaps wondering if someone important would come to check on her. And indeed, that someone was on her way. Princess Anne entered the room quietly, her presence calm but authoritative. Charlotte looked up, her eyes meeting her Aunt S. Anne smiled gently, kneeling down to be at eye level with the young princess. "Hello, Charlotte," she said softly. "How are you feeling?" Charlotte hesitated, then muttered a small reply. Anne listened carefully, noticing even the tiniest changes in tone and expression. She asked gentle questions, trying to understand what had caused Charlotte to feel unsettled, but without putting pressure on the child. While Anne focused on Charlotte's comfort, she was also thinking ahead. She knew that understanding the full context was essential. The report from the guard was only one part of the story, and Anne was determined to see the bigger picture. She would need to speak to the staff who had been nearby, gather information from those who had observed the interaction, and if necessary, address the matter with Camilla directly. But first, Charlotte's feelings came first. Anne's careful attention to the child showed a blend of empathy and decisiveness, qualities that had earned her respect within the family. As the afternoon moved on, more palace aides quietly checked in, bringing updates to Anne about what they had learned. There were small details about the interaction that helped paint a clearer picture, where Charlotte had been standing, what Camilla had said, and how the child had responded. Each piece of information was carefully noted, without judgment or assumption. Anne read each report with concentration, asking precise questions and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. Anne's approach was methodical. She understood that a young child's emotions could be affected by something as small as a word spoken too firmly or a gesture misunderstood. At the same time, she knew the importance of fairness and clarity. It was crucial that everyone involved understood the situation accurately before any conclusions were drawn. Her calm yet firm presence reassured the staff that the matter was being handled responsibly. By the end of the afternoon, Anne had gathered a substantial amount of information. She had spoken to the nanny, the guard, and other staff who had observed the event. She had listened to Charlotte with patience, giving the child space to express herself. And she had begun to form a careful understanding of what had occurred, preparing to take the next steps. Though the palace seemed quiet on the surface, there was an undercurrent of anticipation. Staff members knew that when Princess Anne took an interest in a situation, it would be addressed thoroughly and decisively. Everyone understood the importance of accuracy and discretion, and there was a shared sense of commitment to supporting both Charlotte and the integrity of the royal family. As the evening approached, Anne reflected quietly on the events of the day. She had acted quickly, gathering facts and ensuring Charlotte felt safe. But she also knew that clarity from all sides would be necessary. The coming days would require careful attention, conversations with those involved, and thoughtful decision-making. For now, though, she remained focused on the immediate priority, ensuring that Charlotte felt secure, valued, and heard. In Buckingham Palace, even a small moment could ripple outward, affecting moods and relationships. Princess Anne understood this better than most. She knew that the care and protection of the young ones were a responsibility that could not be taken lightly. As she watched Charlotte settle down with a small smile, Anne felt reassured that she had done the right thing in responding promptly and thoughtfully. The story was far from over, but the first steps had been taken, guided by compassion, attentiveness, and a steadfast sense of duty. After the afternoon incident, the atmosphere in Buckingham Palace remained calm on the surface, but behind the closed doors, a quiet tension lingered. Princess Anne, ever vigilant and decisive, had decided that this was not a matter to leave to chance. She believed that even small incidents could grow into misunderstandings if not handled properly. The first step, she thought, was to gather all the facts in a clear and orderly manner. She needed to know exactly what had happened, why it had happened, and how Charlotte had felt during the encounter. Anne called a meeting with the senior palace staff. It was not a large gathering, only a few trusted aides who were responsible for the daily care of the young royals. They assembled in one of the quiet sitting rooms, their faces showing a mixture of respect and concern. Anne did not raise her voice. She had always believed that calm authority was far more effective than anger or panic. Yet her presence alone commanded attention. The aides knew that this discussion was important and that every detail would be carefully considered. The first to speak was the nanny who had been with Charlotte during the incident. She described the scene with care, noting Charlotte's reactions to every word and gesture. She explained that Charlotte had seemed momentarily confused and had looked for reassurance from the adults around her. The nanny emphasized that there was no visible harm, but the change in the child's mood was clear. Anne listened intently, nodding slightly, asking gentle follow-up questions. She wanted to ensure she understood not just the facts, but also Charlotte's feelings, because for Anne, the emotional well-being of children was always a priority. Next, the palace guard who had observed the encounter shared his account. He spoke slowly and deliberately, recounting exactly what he had seen without exaggeration. He described Camilla's tone, her gestures, and Charlotte's reaction. Anne paid close attention, her eyes narrowing slightly as she absorbed every word. She knew that even small details could make a big difference in understanding the situation. She asked questions with precision, clarifying moments that seemed uncertain. The guard responded respectfully, appreciating Anne's careful approach. He felt confident that the matter was being handled responsibly. As more staff members contributed their observations, a clearer picture began to emerge. Charlotte had been briefly startled by Camilla's firm tone, which was unusual for her. The child had momentarily hesitated, unsure of what to do or how to respond. Anne noted this carefully, recognizing that young children often interpret firmness differently from adults. What might seem minor to an adult could feel significant to a child. Anne's mind worked quickly, connecting the facts with her understanding of child behavior and considering the best way to address the situation. Once all the staff had spoken, Anne took a moment to summarize what she had learned. She emphasized that Charlotte's feelings mattered most and that the focus should be on reassurance and understanding, not blame. Yet she also stressed the importance of accountability and clarity. Every action within the palace, especially involving young members of the family, had a ripple effect. Anne wanted to make sure that every adult involved understood the impact of their behavior and that any potential misunderstandings could be resolved quickly and respectfully. After the initial gathering, Anne decided that it was important to speak to Camilla directly. She believed in honesty and direct communication, but she also understood the need for diplomacy. Confrontation, in her view, was only effective when paired with tact. She sent a discreet message asking Camilla to meet her in a private room. The request was formal but polite, reflecting Anne's approach, firm, respectful, and focused on finding answers rather than assigning blame. While waiting for Camilla's arrival, Anne returned her attention to Charlotte. She knelt beside the young princess again, offering gentle words and a reassuring presence. "It's okay to feel a little unsure sometimes," Anne said softly. "We're here to help you." Charlotte nodded quietly, comforted by her aunt's calm demeanor. The presence of a trusted adult who listened and cared made a difference, easing the tension that had built up during the incident. When Camilla arrived, Anne greeted her politely but firmly. The conversation began in a quiet tone, with Anne asking for a clear explanation of what had happened. Camilla responded, recounting her side of the story. She explained that she had not intended to upset Charlotte and that she had only tried to give a firm instruction, as she sometimes did with children to guide them. Anne listened carefully, observing not just the words but also the tone and body language. She remained neutral, allowing Camilla to explain fully without interruption, yet she kept the conversation focused and direct. Anne asked questions not to accuse but to clarify. "Charlotte seemed a little startled," she said gently. "Can you explain what you intended at that moment?" Camilla replied, reiterating her intent and expressing regret if her approach had caused confusion. Anne acknowledged the explanation but emphasized the importance of understanding how young children perceive adult behavior. "Even small actions can feel big to a child," she noted calmly. "We must always consider their perspective." The discussion continued with mutual respect. Anne's approach was neither harsh nor passive. It was balanced, reflecting her experience in managing sensitive situations. She highlighted the need for communication, care, and awareness, making it clear that the goal was resolution and reassurance rather than conflict. Camilla listened attentively, recognizing Anne's commitment to the welfare of the child. The conversation ended with a shared understanding. Charlotte's comfort and sense of security were paramount, and everyone involved would take care to act accordingly in the future. After Camilla left, Anne spent more time with Charlotte. She engaged the young princess in quiet conversation, asking about her day and sharing gentle stories to distract her from any lingering worry. She encouraged Charlotte to express her feelings freely and reassured her that adults were there to help, listen, and protect. The young girl gradually relaxed, her usual spark returning as she felt supported and understood. Meanwhile, Anne ensured that staff members were reminded of their role in monitoring interactions with young royals. She emphasized vigilance, patience, and kindness. Every adult in the palace had a responsibility to create a safe and nurturing environment for the children. Anne's guidance was clear but encouraging, fostering a sense of teamwork and shared purpose among the staff. Throughout the afternoon and evening, Anne reflected on the situation. She considered the lessons it offered about communication, empathy, and responsibility. She recognized that children's reactions could reveal underlying concerns, and she appreciated the importance of addressing them quickly and thoughtfully. Her focus remained on ensuring that Charlotte felt secure, that staff were aware of their responsibilities, and that future interactions would be handled with care. By the end of the day, the palace had returned to its usual calm. Yet beneath the quiet, Anne's influence was evident. Staff members felt reassured that any potential problem had been addressed thoughtfully. Charlotte was safe and comforted, her emotional well-being attended to by a loving aunt who understood the importance of listening and guiding. And Anne herself felt confident that she had acted in the best interests of the child and the family, balancing firmness, empathy, and clarity. Even in a place as grand and formal as Buckingham Palace, small moments mattered. Anne's decisive yet gentle approach ensured that those moments were handled with care and understanding. By attending to Charlotte's feelings, gathering facts, and addressing the situation directly, Anne demonstrated her commitment to protecting and guiding the young members of her family. In doing so, she set an example for everyone in the palace. That attention, compassion, and thoughtful action were the foundation of a safe and nurturing environment. The day ended with Charlotte tucked into bed, smiling and relaxed, and Anne taking a quiet moment to review the events and lessons of the afternoon. She knew that while this incident might seem minor to outsiders, it was a meaningful opportunity to practice vigilance, understanding, and empathy. Buckingham Palace, a place of history and tradition, had once again been a stage for care, guidance, and the quiet work of protecting the youngest members of the royal family. After the careful conversations with the staff and her gentle talk with Charlotte, Princess Anne knew that the situation required more attention. While the child had been reassured and comforted, Anne understood that clarity and understanding from all sides were essential. It was one thing for Charlotte to feel safe in the moment, but it was another to ensure that any potential confusion or tension within the palace was fully resolved. Anne had always been methodical in her approach to delicate matters. She believed that addressing things early, calmly, and fairly prevented bigger problems later. The next step, Anne decided, was to speak directly with Camilla again. This time, it would not just be about gathering facts, but about discussing the matter in a way that ensured mutual understanding and agreement on how to handle such situations in the future. Anne valued diplomacy, but she was also known for her straightforwardness. She believed that honesty, combined with respect, was the most effective way to resolve conflicts and prevent misunderstandings. Anne sent a discreet message to Camilla, asking her to meet in a quiet, private room. The tone was polite but firm, emphasizing the need for a conversation that focused on the well-being of Charlotte. Camilla responded promptly, understanding the importance of the meeting. She arrived shortly after with a calm and composed demeanor. Anne greeted her warmly, but with the authority that naturally came from her role within the family. This balance of warmth and firmness would set the tone for the conversation. As they sat across from each other, Anne began the discussion in a measured and clear voice. "I want to talk about Charlotte and the interaction earlier today," she said softly but firmly. "It's important that we understand exactly what happened so she feels safe and secure." Camilla nodded, her expression attentive. She explained that her actions had been meant to guide Charlotte firmly, not to upset her. She admitted that her tone may have been sharper than intended and expressed concern that it had caused the young princess some worry. Anne listened carefully, noting both the words and the tone. She knew that communication was more than just what was said. It included how it was said and how it was received. "I understand your intention," Anne said gently. "But children sometimes perceive things differently from adults. Even when no harm is meant, they can feel unsure or startled." She paused, allowing Camilla to take in her words. "That is why it is important we all pay close attention to their reactions and respond appropriately." Camilla nodded again, showing understanding. Anne appreciated her willingness to listen. She continued, calmly and methodically explaining that young children were highly sensitive to changes in tone, body language, and expressions. "Charlotte may not fully understand adult intentions yet," Anne said. "She relies on us to make sure she feels supported and reassured at all times. That is our responsibility as adults. Camilla acknowledged this, and the conversation began to shift from explanation to understanding and cooperation, and then suggested ways they could work together to ensure that Charlotte felt secure in the future. She emphasized that consistency, patience, and gentle communication were key. Even small gestures of reassurance can make a big difference, Anne explained. We need to make sure that all interactions, even brief ones, leave her feeling safe and confident. Camilla agreed, noting that she would be more mindful of tone and expression in her future interactions with Charlotte. The discussion was calm, professional, and focused on practical solutions rather than blame. While the meeting was taking place, Anne also made sure that the palace staff were informed of the outcomes in a careful and respectful manner. She spoke to the aides, explaining the importance of clear observation and reporting, and reminded them of their role in protecting and guiding the young royals. Her guidance was thoughtful and encouraging, highlighting that every staff member played an essential role in maintaining a safe and supportive environment. After the conversation with Camilla, Anne returned to Charlotte, who was still under the watchful care of her nanny. She knelt beside the young princess once more, offering reassurance and warmth. "We talked with everyone to make sure you are safe and happy," she said gently. Charlotte smiled slightly, her earlier hesitation melting away. She felt the presence of her aunt as a protective and comforting figure, someone who understood her feelings and would always stand by her. Anne also took a moment to reflect on the broader implications of the day's events. She understood that life within the palace, though often appearing formal and composed, involved constant learning and adjustment. Even adults with the best intentions could unintentionally create confusion or worry. By addressing the situation promptly and thoughtfully, Anne had demonstrated leadership, care, and responsibility. She had not only reassured Charlotte, but had also guided the adults around her to be more aware and considerate. In the following hours, Anne continued to observe Charlotte, noting her interactions with other members of the family and the staff. She watched how the young princess responded to ordinary routines, small instructions, and playful moments. Anne was satisfied to see that Charlotte's confidence and cheerfulness were returning. She also paid attention to the staff, ensuring that they were implementing the guidance she had provided. This attention to detail reflected Anne's thoroughness and dedication to creating a nurturing environment. Throughout the evening, Anne remained in contact with senior aides, making sure that reports were accurate and that any concerns were addressed promptly. She encouraged open communication, making it clear that staff should feel comfortable sharing observations without fear of judgment. By fostering this environment, Anne was not only protecting Charlotte in the present, but also creating a system of support that would benefit all young members of the family in the future. Anne's approach was careful and measured. She balanced firmness with empathy, clarity with patience, and leadership with understanding. She knew that children learned not just from words, but from the tone, actions, and consistency of the adults around them. By modeling thoughtful communication and attentive care, she provided a living example for both the staff and the family. As the evening grew quieter, Anne took a few moments alone to consider the lessons of the day. She reflected on the importance of vigilance, empathy, and direct communication. She understood that young children required both guidance and reassurance, and that adults had a duty to provide both. She also recognized the value of addressing concerns openly and respectfully, ensuring that misunderstandings were resolved before they could grow into larger issues. By the end of the day, the palace had returned to its calm rhythm. Charlotte was relaxed and happy, engaged in quiet play and showing her usual curiosity. Camilla had left after the meeting, understanding the importance of careful and thoughtful interaction. The staff had been guided and reminded of their responsibilities, and Anne herself felt confident that she had acted in the best interest of the young princess and the family as a whole. Yet even in this moment of calm, Anne remained attentive. She knew that life within the palace was always evolving, with new situations arising that would require careful observation and thoughtful action. Her role was to remain steady, protective, and fair, guiding both the children and the adults in ways that ensured harmony and safety. She had demonstrated that even small events could be addressed with clarity, compassion, and decisiveness. Anne's dedication did not go unnoticed. Staff members admired her careful balance of authority and empathy. They saw how she valued the feelings of children while also maintaining order and respect within the household. The young princess, too, had been reassured, feeling the care and protection of an adult who listened, understood, and acted with her best interests at heart. As the night settled over Buckingham Palace, the quiet grandeur of the halls reflected the stability that Princess Anne had brought to the situation. She had turned a potentially worrying incident into an opportunity for guidance, learning, and reassurance. Charlotte was safe, the staff were attentive, and the family remained united in understanding and care. Through patience, direct communication, and thoughtful leadership, Anne had ensured that the palace remained a place of safety, respect, and support for its youngest members. The events of the day, though subtle in the grand history of the palace, had left a lasting impression. Anne's actions reinforced the importance of vigilance, empathy, and careful communication. They reminded everyone in the palace that even small moments mattered, and that the well-being of the children was always the highest priority. As she prepared for the evening, Anne felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that she had fulfilled her responsibility with both heart and wisdom, guiding those around her toward a safer and more understanding environment. The following morning at Buckingham Palace began quietly with the soft sounds of footsteps echoing through the hallways. The grand halls, polished and regal, were filled with an air of routine, yet beneath that calm, Princess Anne's mind was busy. She had spent the previous day carefully observing and addressing the incident involving Charlotte and Camilla, but she knew that the palace, with all its activity, required ongoing attention. Any misunderstanding, no matter how small, could affect not only Charlotte but the harmony of the household. Anne had always believed that careful action and communication were the keys to maintaining balance in such a grand and intricate environment. Anne began her day by reviewing all the reports that had been submitted by the staff. These included the detailed observations of the guards, the notes from the nanny, and the summaries of conversations with Camilla. She read each report slowly, absorbing every detail, making sure nothing was overlooked. Her mind worked methodically, connecting the dots and ensuring that the sequence of events was clear. Every detail mattered: the timing, the tone, the reactions, and even the small gestures that might seem insignificant to an adult but could be meaningful to a child. Once Anne had reviewed the reports, she called a meeting with senior palace officials. This meeting was not meant to place blame or create conflict. Instead, it was about clarity, understanding, and planning. Anne emphasized that the well-being of the children was the top priority and that every adult had a role in ensuring a safe and supportive environment. She explained that even minor incidents could have lasting effects if not handled thoughtfully and consistently. Her voice was calm but firm, and everyone in the room listened attentively, understanding the seriousness of the discussion. Anne began by summarizing the events of the previous day, carefully describing Charlotte's reactions and feelings. She highlighted the importance of observing children closely and responding to their needs with care and sensitivity. She pointed out that adults often underestimated how deeply young children perceive tone, gestures, and expressions. A word spoken too sharply, a hand movement that seemed minor to an adult, could create confusion or worry for a child. By laying out these observations, Anne ensured that the staff understood the perspective of Charlotte and of all young members of the family. After providing this overview, Anne opened the floor for discussion. She encouraged the officials and senior staff to share their thoughts, ask questions, and offer suggestions. The conversation was constructive, focused on solutions rather than criticism. Staff members spoke about ways to monitor interactions more carefully, to observe body language, and to provide immediate reassurance when a child appeared uncertain. Anne listened carefully, taking notes and asking clarifying questions to make sure the proposed measures were practical and effective. One of the key points Anne stressed was consistency. She explained that children thrive when the adults around them act in predictable and supportive ways. "We must all be aware of our tone, our gestures, and our words," she said. "Even in brief interactions, the children are learning how to interpret the world. They notice everything. Our responsibility is to guide them gently and to reassure them whenever they feel unsure." The staff nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her approach. Anne's words reminded them that their daily actions had a real impact, and that attentiveness was as important as protocol. The meeting also included a discussion about communication between adults. Anne emphasized that clarity among staff and family members was essential. Misunderstandings could easily arise if information was incomplete or delayed. She encouraged staff to report observations quickly and accurately without fear of judgment or reprimand. Honesty and precision are essential, she said. We must ensure that every concern is addressed promptly so that nothing escalates unnecessarily. Her calm, measured tone reassured everyone that the goal was understanding, not criticism. Following the meeting, Anne decided to speak with Charlotte one more time. The young princess had been busy with her usual activities, yet she still remembered the events of the previous day. Anne knelt beside her again, maintaining a gentle and reassuring presence. "We've spoken to everyone to make sure you feel safe," Anne said softly. "You are very brave, and it's okay to share how you feel. We are always here to listen." Charlotte smiled faintly, feeling the warmth and support of her aunt. She felt understood, valued, and safe, an essential reassurance for a young child navigating the structured world of the palace. Anne then turned her attention to Camilla, arranging another conversation. This meeting was focused on reinforcing cooperation and understanding. Anne appreciated Camilla's willingness to listen during their previous discussion and wanted to ensure that the guidance provided was implemented consistently. When they met, Anne spoke with clarity and patience, emphasizing the importance of maintaining a supportive environment for Charlotte. "Your guidance is important," Anne said, "but so is the way we present it. Children respond best when they feel secure, respected, and reassured. That is our priority." Camilla listened attentively, acknowledging the advice and promising to be more mindful of her interactions. After these discussions, Anne spent time coordinating with the palace staff to ensure that protocols were in place for the future. She suggested small, practical steps, observing children carefully, offering immediate reassurance when they appeared confused, and maintaining a calm, steady tone at all times. She also emphasized the importance of teamwork, reminding staff that everyone played a role in creating a nurturing environment. Her guidance was clear, actionable, and focused on maintaining the well-being of the children. The rest of the day unfolded with careful attention to Charlotte's comfort and confidence. Anne observed her interactions with other family members and staff, making sure that the child felt secure and supported. She noticed subtle improvements in Charlotte's mood and demeanor, small signs that her reassurances and interventions had been effective. Each smile, each relaxed gesture, and each playful moment reassured Anne that the situation was moving in a positive direction. In the background, the palace staff continued to implement the measures Anne had suggested. They paid closer attention to body language, tone, and timing. They observed and recorded interactions discreetly, making note of any instances that required additional reassurance or support. Anne monitored these efforts, offering guidance and encouragement where needed. She believed that careful observation and thoughtful intervention were the keys to creating a safe, nurturing environment for the children. Anne also took time to reflect personally on the lessons of the day. She understood that life in the palace was often unpredictable, with situations arising that demanded both attention and discretion. She recognized the importance of addressing concerns promptly and thoughtfully, and of modeling calm, empathetic leadership. Her approach combined firmness with understanding, authority with compassion, and clarity with patience. It was a method she had developed over years of experience, and it served her well in guiding both children and adults. By the evening, Buckingham Palace had returned to its usual calm rhythm. Charlotte was relaxed, engaged in quiet play, and showing her characteristic curiosity and cheerfulness. Camilla had departed, aware of the need for gentle guidance in her interactions. Staff members were attentive, respectful, and prepared to support the children in a consistent and thoughtful manner. Anne felt confident that she had taken the necessary steps to address the incident fully, ensuring that all parties understood their responsibilities and that Charlotte's well-being remained the priority. Yet Anne's attention to detail did not end with the resolution of the immediate issue. She understood that maintaining a nurturing environment required ongoing care, observation, and communication. She remained vigilant, quietly monitoring the palace's routines, ensuring that everyone continued to act in ways that supported the children's safety and confidence. Her approach reflected her deep understanding of both human behavior and palace protocol, a combination of insight, patience, and practical action. The events of the day, though subtle and contained, had a lasting impact. Anne had reinforced the importance of empathy, clear communication, and careful observation. She had guided both adults and children through a potentially confusing situation, demonstrating that even in a structured and formal environment, understanding and care could prevail. Her leadership provided a model of thoughtful action, showing that attention to detail and concern for others could prevent misunderstandings and foster harmony. As night settled over Buckingham Palace, the quiet halls reflected the stability that Anne had brought to the day. Charlotte was safe, happy, and reassured. Staff members were attentive and aligned in their approach. Camilla had been reminded of the importance of mindful interaction. And Princess Anne herself, calm and composed, could reflect on a day that had required both decisiveness and compassion. Through careful observation, thoughtful conversation, and clear guidance, she had ensured that the palace remained a place of care, understanding, and security for its youngest members. Even in a palace with centuries of history, where grand events often take center stage, it was these small, attentive actions that truly shaped the environment. Anne's dedication to Charlotte's well-being, to clear communication among staff, and to a culture of empathy and support, demonstrated the quiet but powerful influence of careful, thoughtful leadership. By the end of the day, the palace was not just orderly. It was nurturing, respectful, and prepared for the future, a testament to Anne's wisdom and care. As the days passed following the incident, Buckingham Palace returned to its usual rhythm. The grand halls, with their polished floors and ornate decorations, echoed with the soft footsteps of staff and the playful laughter of children. Yet behind this calm, Princess Anne remained attentive, quietly observing every interaction involving Charlotte. She knew that reassurance was not a one-time act, but a continuous process. A child's confidence and sense of security grew slowly, nurtured by consistent care and guidance from the adults around them. Anne believed that even the smallest gestures could leave a lasting impression on young minds. Charlotte, now more relaxed, was gradually returning to her usual cheerful self. She engaged in her daily activities with curiosity and enthusiasm, exploring the palace grounds and playing with her toys. Anne watched her closely, smiling as she noticed Charlotte's bright eyes and confident steps. It was clear that the child felt safe and supported, a reflection of the careful attention and reassurance she had received. Anne understood that fostering this sense of security was essential not only for Charlotte's happiness, but also for her development and confidence as she grew. The palace staff, guided by Anne's earlier instructions, continued to be vigilant and attentive. They observed Charlotte's behavior, noting moments when she appeared uncertain or needed extra support. They also communicated openly with one another, sharing observations in a calm and respectful manner. Anne encouraged this ongoing dialogue, emphasizing that clear communication was crucial in maintaining a harmonious environment. By fostering teamwork and awareness, she ensured that every adult in the palace was aligned in their approach to the children's well-being. Anne also took time to reflect on the importance of example. She knew that children learned not only from words, but from the behavior of the adults around them. Her own calm and thoughtful approach served as a model for staff and family members alike. By demonstrating patience, empathy, and careful communication, she encouraged everyone to act with awareness and consideration. Small actions, like speaking gently, observing attentively, and offering reassurance, became a natural part of daily routines within the palace. One afternoon, Anne decided to spend a longer period with Charlotte, engaging her in quiet activities and conversation. They walked together through the palace gardens, where sunlight streamed through the trees, casting gentle shadows on the pathways. Charlotte asked questions about the flowers, the birds, and the palace grounds, and Anne answered with warmth and patience. The conversation flowed naturally, filled with curiosity and laughter. Anne used these moments to strengthen Charlotte's sense of trust and confidence, showing her that adults could be both guiding and supportive. During their time together, Anne also emphasized the importance of expressing feelings. She encouraged Charlotte to talk about anything that worried her, reassuring her that it was okay to feel uncertain or confused. "It's always good to share your thoughts," Anne said gently. When we talk about our feelings, it helps us understand them and feel better. Charlotte listened attentively, gradually learning that her emotions were valued and respected. This understanding was a crucial step in helping her navigate not only the events of the past days, but also future challenges with confidence. Meanwhile, the staff continued to implement the practices Anne had recommended. They approached every interaction with care, maintaining gentle tones, offering reassurance when needed, and observing body language closely. They documented moments of concern, shared insights, and worked together to create an environment that was both structured and nurturing. Anne monitored these efforts, providing guidance when necessary and praising staff for their attentive and thoughtful actions. Her leadership reinforced a culture of care and respect within the palace. Camilla, too, maintained her awareness of Charlotte's needs. She approached her interactions with renewed mindfulness, ensuring that guidance was gentle and supportive. Anne observed this progress, noting the importance of cooperation and understanding among adults in fostering a child's sense of security. The combined efforts of family members and staff created a consistent and reassuring environment for Charlotte, where she could explore, learn, and grow with confidence. Anne also recognized the value of reflection and learning. She reviewed the events, conversations, and actions of the past days, considering what worked well and what could be improved. She took note of lessons about observation, communication, and empathy, understanding that these insights would be valuable for future situations. Her approach demonstrated that even small incidents could provide meaningful opportunities for growth, learning, and strengthening relationships. As the week progressed, Charlotte's confidence grew visibly. She navigated the palace halls with assurance, engaged happily with staff and family members, and participated enthusiastically in daily routines. Her laughter echoed through the rooms, a sign of her restored sense of comfort and happiness. Anne felt satisfaction in witnessing this transformation, knowing that careful attention, guidance, and reassurance had helped Charlotte regain her confidence and sense of security. Anne also took the opportunity to strengthen relationships among the staff. She held brief discussions, offering encouragement and recognition for their attentive care. She emphasized that their dedication was key to creating a supportive environment and that their observations and communication helped prevent small concerns from escalating. By acknowledging their efforts and reinforcing best practices, Anne nurtured a sense of shared responsibility and teamwork among the staff. The palace, while grand and historic, was also a place of learning and growth. Anne's approach demonstrated that leadership required not only authority, but also empathy, attentiveness, and patience. She balanced firmness with kindness, clarity with understanding, and guidance with reassurance. Her actions reinforced the idea that every adult within the palace played a role in creating a positive and nurturing environment for the children. In the evenings, Anne often took quiet moments to reflect. She considered the importance of vigilance, the value of calm and clear communication, and the power of thoughtful intervention. She understood that her actions influenced both the children and the staff, shaping the culture of the household. By remaining attentive, considerate, and consistent, she ensured that the palace remained a place of safety, respect, and care for all its members. One particular evening, Charlotte approached Anne with a small drawing she had made. She proudly showed her aunt the colors and shapes, explaining each detail with excitement. Anne listened attentively, complimenting her creativity and effort. "You've done a wonderful job," she said warmly. "I can see how much thought you put into it." Charlotte beamed, feeling valued and understood. These small moments of connection reinforced the trust and bond between Charlotte and Anne, helping the child feel secure and confident in her surroundings. And also encouraged the staff to celebrate Charlotte's small achievements and milestones. She reminded them that recognition and positive reinforcement were essential in fostering self-esteem and confidence. By highlighting accomplishments, no matter how minor, the child learned to feel proud of her efforts and abilities. This practice strengthened the culture of care and encouragement within the palace, benefiting both Charlotte and the staff who supported her. As days turned into weeks, the situation became a positive example of leadership, care, and collaboration. Anne's actions had transformed a moment of uncertainty into an opportunity for growth and learning. Charlotte felt secure, confident, and happy, while the staff gained clarity and understanding of their responsibilities. Camilla's awareness and cooperation contributed to a harmonious environment, demonstrating the importance of teamwork and mindfulness in guiding young members of the family. In the evenings, Anne often reflected on the broader meaning of these events. She recognized that leadership involved more than directing actions. It required understanding, patience, and empathy. By observing carefully, listening attentively, and responding thoughtfully, she had ensured the well-being of Charlotte and strengthened the supportive structure of the palace. Her approach demonstrated that careful attention to detail, combined with compassion, could create lasting positive effects on both children and adults. As the story reached its natural close, Charlotte thrived in the safe and nurturing environment created by Anne, the staff, and the family. The young princess moved through her days with confidence, curiosity, and joy. She felt secure in the knowledge that adults were attentive, supportive, and understanding, ready to guide her with care whenever needed. Princess Anne's actions, measured and thoughtful, left a lasting impression on everyone involved. She had addressed the incident with clarity, patience, and empathy, ensuring that Charlotte's well-being remained the priority. She had guided the staff, fostered communication, and encouraged mindfulness in all interactions. Through her example, she had reinforced the importance of empathy, consistency, and leadership, leaving a lasting legacy of care and attentiveness within Buckingham Palace. In the quiet of the palace at night, as the chandeliers cast soft light across the elegant rooms and corridors, Princess Anne felt a sense of calm satisfaction. The immediate challenge had been resolved, but more importantly, the palace had become a place of learning, understanding, and reassurance. Every child and adult involved had benefited from her guidance, demonstrating that even small, thoughtful actions could have a powerful impact. The days ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, but Anne's steady presence, clear communication, and compassionate leadership ensured that the palace remained a place of safety, respect, and nurturing for all its members.